And we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our writing advice bracket challenge night. I see we've got Missy Kate and Nicole in chat already. Nicole said, I don't know if any battle will ever top the himbo bracket. I'm going to have to agree. That was probably the most heated any bracket has ever gotten.
The villain one got pretty heated too.
Oh, yeah.
Vamos.
So yeah, today we've got 32 different kinds of or different writing advices that are often given to people, and we're gonna try to find the one true writing advice. I have a theory of what it's gonna be already, but I'm excited to see if other people agree with me.
I have a
Yeah.
Your mileage may vary.
Best advice is just don't do advice. Oh. Hi everyone, welcome. Check. I put everything into a like bracket making like a website generator for the low cost of all my personal information because making this bracket almost killed me. This is the limits of my skills. So yeah, I think it's going to let me click start the tournament and then I can just click the winners and it will automatically push them to the next things. So that's exciting. Yes, Andrew, I think we're going to go for best advice. But there is some just, in my opinion, really bad advice in this. So we can talk about that too. Yeah, just, is there anything else we need to go over before we get started?
I really want to jump in because I feel like these we could talk about these things for a while, but I also want to dawdle till Erin gets here because she said she'll be here in a second. It makes more sense to start with her. But
what's everyone reading right now? Let us know in chat what you're reading right now.
I'm reading 3 different books right now. I'm reading The Maid and the Crocodile, which is Jordan Fueco's new book. It's in the same world as Rhaegar, but it's further ahead timeline-wise, I think. And then I'm also reading The Unbroken, and I'm reading A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcy Littlebadger, who wrote Elatsaway. Oh. And so far, I think I'm enjoying, or I liked Elatsaway better, but I'm only about 30% in, so we'll see.
Nice.
I'm reading Gathering Moss.
Nice.
And We Used to Live Here by Marcus Cleve, which I know I've talked about a couple times. I'll talk about more when I actually finish it. I chickened out of it for the last week. Every time I start it, it's too late. I'm no, this is scary. I'm going to stop now. It's been a bad sleep week and I didn't want to risk it.
Yeah.
Oh, Nicole is also reading. We Used to Live Here.
I love Weird House. I'm so excited. I have it on hold at the library, but it's going to be a while, I think. I picked up the Fragile Threads of Power, I think it's called. It was at my library and I grabbed it. The writing is fantastic. I got a little more hung up than I should have on the opening. It's a prologue that's this young person's POV, and they slink down a fire, down a chimney, and sneak into a house, and they're stealing food from the house and thinking about the best way to steal food from a house so people don't notice. And then she just dropped that the person was 7 years old. I was like, a 7-year-old slunk down a chimney. So that threw me off a little bit, but I'm going to get back into it. I know it's going to be great. So,
well, I suppose, chimney sweeps were kids.
It was very Dickensian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I needed something small to bring in my bag for vacation because I was flying, and most of the books I was currently reading were like huge hardcovers. So I went old school, and I'm reading The Blue Sword by Robert McKinley, which I thought I had read. But as I was reading it, I was like, this doesn't sound familiar. And then I realized it's because and like I owned it. So I was like, I must have read this. But no, I've read The Hero and the Crown, which is like a prequel. But it's really good. I'm enjoying it. It's classic for a reason.
I just finished Dragon Fruit by Michaela Lucier.
That's next on my list.
It's like stunning world building.
Nice.
And also like that cover. Can you hold that cover up again? Because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
also one of my favorite color covers that I've read this year.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's a very pretty cover and very pretty world building. So
All right. Let's dive in. We have plenty of advice. So for our first two, we have avoid using said and don't use a long word when a short word will do. These are all, by the way, prefacing this, these are all pieces of advice that I have firsthand witnessed from like authors. So none of this is made up advice. I have seen all of this. So
the second one was don't use a short word when a long word will do, or the
don't
reverse?
use a long word when a short word will do. This one is one from Mr. Stephen King, if I'm remembering correctly.
of the two, I would rather the second one.
Same.
Yeah.
I would not give either of those pieces of advice personally, but the not like,
I can see there being particular writers where the long word, short word one could be good advice. The said one, I think, is always bad.
Yeah.
I don't want to say always and like be that specific, but in this case, perhaps.
the sad one is how you end up with people using ejaculated as like a anyway.
There is that.
I mean, you could say like sometimes
gonna get us
it's an action
demonetized
tag
for
or
saying
no. So,
No, we're 7 minutes in. We're good.
Okay,
The first 5 minutes. So.
Yeah, it's a dialogue tag. That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
Perfect. Oh, this lets me put in votes for each one. This is great. If
I'm curious
anyone
what
thinks,
the chat people will say.
yeah, we'll give the chat a minute to catch up. Then I can put your votes into it as well. The better advice of the two is what we're going for. What is the advice that you think should be more readily given of the two? They aren't all bad advice, but some of them are bad advice.
Some of them aren't good advice.
Yeah, some of them is advice that I wouldn't recommend giving to people, but that I certainly heard on AuthorTube in 2014.
I'd be curious of these how many of these make appearances on the WordNerd archives.
Yeah, I've had a couple that I know I have given in the past that I would not give now. Yeah, so again, those two were avoid using said for number one, and don't use a long word when a short one will do. So we seem pretty well in agreement on this one that while neither is advice you'd particularly give, no long words when short ones work is. All right. These next two, I tried to get advice that would be at least semi-related. They aren't all perfectly related, but so the chat is fully in agreement with us as well. So for this next one, just push through, let your first draft suck, or jump around, write out of order. Which advice are you more likely to give? Who do you think is the better advice?
It's so hard because it's very much dependent on the writer and like their process.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like push through, let your first draft suck doesn't mean you can't write out of order. Like it can be more generalized, like just finish that draft of like, there's problems, but you can still write it out of order unless they're meant to be like contrasting.
No, they don't have to be contrasting.
So I think it's me. There are people who cannot write out of order. For me, if I try writing out of order, then I don't ever come back to the stuff that I wanted to skip to begin with. So that is not one I would ever give.
I think I lean more towards the push through just because I know for a lot of writers, like getting a complete first draft of like any project is a really big thing. I know it was for me. I would start writing stories and never finish them. So like I lean more towards that one. And also because like you can use the cheat of like put brackets, fight scene goes here, and then keep going. And like what goes there. You'll have to write it at some point, but like you can keep pushing through the draft.
Yeah, I'd be more likely to give the push through advice.
Yeah. Misty Kate said, I outline in order, then write out of order in general. So should I vote? I actually do the same lately. I outline very in order, and then if something's not working, I'll just jump ahead. And it's been working quite well for my brain lately. But I do think that push through is ahead now. It's got like 5 or 6. So submit the scores on that one. Okay, so next up. Oh yeah, Andrew said writing bad first drafts is a much more important piece of advice. Writing out of order is the advice I need now, but not the best one when I started. So next up, we've got 2 big ones, 2 big hitters. Write every day and write what you know.
I feel solidly about write what you know.
Yeah, say if I have to pick between the two, write what you know.
Because write what you know can be like the emotional truth of a thing, not like you have to be a necromancer.
No, I think you have to be a necromancer. You're right.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Yeah. Write every day is just such like an aversive piece of advice to me now, which it would not have been 10 years ago, but now it just feels so like some of us can't.
Yeah.
Some of us are tired.
It feels like gatekeeping writing at this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And some people just need the thought process time in between writing days to like figure out what happens next.
And some people aren't getting paid to write.
Also very true.
Have a day job or any other number of things that like you cannot write every day.
Yeah.
But I think even if everyone theoretically could write every day and had no other obligations, like some people, that's just like not what would work for their brains.
Yeah. Kirsten White talks about that a lot, how she's a very like, it's going to take me a long, long, long time, and then suddenly like she's going to knock it out. And she publishes like 4 books a year right now somehow. So Andrew said, write what you know, you can always know more. Valerie said, write every day. If you only write what you know, you won't grow as a writer. Misty Kate said, write every day, even if it's just journaling. So we've got some disagreement in chat.
I know Erin, do any of you journal?
I keep a journal, yeah. But my goal is to write in it once a month, not every day. So it's usually just like, I saw a crow today. Aren't crows great? And then just like keep going.
Crows are great.
They are. Someday when I'm in a place where I know I'm going to live there forever, I'm going to befriend the crows. I can't befriend them here knowing that I might not be here forever though.
Like, I can't commit crows.
I can't. I'm not ready for that commitment. Nicole said, I think people don't use write what you know as it was intended. It's like Kelly said about knowing an emotion, but maybe not how to scale a cliff. Yeah.
And I think recently there's probably, I'm seeing that advice more in terms of like the right people writing certain stories, like it not being your story to tell kind of thing. I
do agree with that. All right. I think that does still push write what you know well through over write every day. So I'm going to submit that one.
I feel like previous brackets we've done most of the arguing like at the beginning, and this one will get more heated as we go instead. Like there's just like there's so much writing advice that we no one will argue for. So
I just also feel like if both of the pieces of advice are like, I would not say that I'm not going to die on either hill, you know?
Right.
Okay, so these next two, if something isn't working in your book, step away and take a break, or treat writing like it's your job.
Take a break. Because also at my job, if something isn't working, I can take a break.
I'd like combine the two, so I don't know. Because like at your job, like in writing, there's a good chance if you take a break, you're not going to come back to it. But if you're treating it like your job, you will circle back to it. Like how many books have we taken breaks from that we have not returned to?
I don't think you should ask me. It's really rude of you to ask me.
I'm like, fair. Megan's like, rude.
I'd probably say the take a break one.
Because again, a lot of people aren't getting paid to do the writing yet. So.
Yeah, the treat writing like your job is like if you want to.
Like, yeah, I prefer to take a break because I think take a break can kind of be universally applied. Where treat it like it's your job depends on like what your goals are.
True.
Yeah.
But take a break is also like advice that is so likely to be abused. I'm gonna go like treat it like your job, but it could be like a part-time job or like a side hustle you do for fun. It doesn't have to be like your career, but I know for me that's gonna be what gets me further than taking a break from things. Erin, hello.
Hello. I like this comment from Belle says, take a break, working on a different part is still working.
True.
Take a break and still be productive in a different way. All right. So I believe that was take a break. Take a break. Up ahead, as Nicole said. Okay. Now these are going to be a little out of order because I can't do brackets. So my bracket thing put them a little out of order, but we're going to do we've got read widely versus read your faves with editor eyes.
I think read widely because you can still read your faves with editor eyes while you're reading widely.
Yeah, it's true.
And also, like the world is so interesting. You can read a variety of stories, and then it can inspire you to write something in your story that might not even be super connected to it, but like it just sparks an idea for you. So
Okay, but that could also be true of like, I don't know, what if I don't want to read widely? I can read a lot, but like what if you're only reading the trope you write in romance? I don't think that's great advice, but like,
yeah.
if or you're only reading romance, like no one would say you're reading widely, but you can still read a lot without like having to.
For me, that would still be like, well, you're reading widely in your genre. I don't think of read widely as meaning like you have to read all the genre, like a whole bunch of everything, but like you're getting a lot of input from at least like the people in your genre.
Yeah.
So again, those were read widely and read your faves with editor eyes. And we are trying to work our way to like the top writing advice. What's the advice that you're most likely to give?
I like both of these. I think I'm probably going to have to go with read widely for me.
Same.
Yeah. If it's Kari's definition of it, then yes. Like reading a lot is, I think, maybe the most important thing you can do.
Okay. We in agreement? Read widely?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Next up, we've got draft with the door closed and write for yourself.
Similar.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah, so I guess what is our definition defining the two?
Okay, Socrates. No, I agree. I think drafting with the door closed is a very like write your first draft without outside input. Writing for yourself is more like the intrinsic value of like why are you writing?
Okay, so in that one, you could be sharing and getting feedback on it as you draft. Okay.
Unless other people disagree, because I just copied these from writing advice pages. So
I lean towards writing for yourself because even if you write and are like, no one's gonna see this until I decide they're gonna see it, you still get sick of an idea if you aren't really writing for yourself. So
yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah, I would go with writing for yourself because I think kind of the opposite of that too is like trying to like write towards trends or write towards the market, and writing for something you enjoy is more important.
Okay, and I agree as well. My vote's going to go that same place, but I think the flip side of why that advice might be less good sometimes, like, okay, not writing for tropes in the market, but also how many of us have like written a draft of a book that we wish we'd written that goes nowhere because someone else already wrote that book. Like,
True. You're like, if I had had this idea 2 years earlier.
Yep.
I also just think it's fine if you don't want to draft with the door closed. Like if you want to send your first draft to people, I think that can be fun and motivating as long as you're like knowing your limits with it.
I mean, yeah, that's what I do with my critique partners. They're reading my first draft as I draft.
Yeah.
It's the manuscript I signed with my agents on, like Megan and Aaron were reading chapters as I wrote them.
That was very much a love what you do.
It was
Right.
a very love what I do, and it was like
Yeah.
in that case, and that was this one book for this one person for me, but like the fact that Megan and Aaron were like reading and responding in real time was a huge motivating factor that helped me get through writing it. So at least for that one, like I don't know if that book would have turned out the way it did if I had been drafting with the door closed.
Really true.
All right. Next up, I think this one's probably going to be pretty easy. Don't edit as you go versus show don't tell.
I'm always going to go with show don't tell, even though it's like such old advice. I have to explain it in just 50 different ways to people when I'm critiquing work is all, but it's always going to be that advice for me.
I feel like similar to one of the ones we talked about earlier, my brain just blanked out. write what you know. I think it gets misapplied and misunderstood a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree, it's the one I would go to out of the two.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what the other one is, so sure.
Don't edit as you go. For me, that's so like if that works for you, edit as you go. Like
Yeah.
as long as you finish, I don't care how you got there. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
try it out and see if you get stuck in art making progress.
That makes
And
sense.
for sure, don't tell us. Also, just like every beginning author I see is telling instead of showing. Almost all of them. You have to learn how not to do that.
Yeah, like I feel like there's like a natural progression. Like all beginner authors start there, and you eventually get to a point where you go, no. Sometimes you could just tell us that they went on this journey, and now we're in the next place.
Yeah.
With a middle stop in show and tell.
Yeah.
Show it and tell it.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. But the show don't tell journey feels like a canon event for writers of just like
Oh,
we all must walk this path.
Okay. Next up, we've got, so the first one is it's a slightly longer quote, so I'm going to say it twice just to make sure. I know sometimes we can breeze through things and then have to get the chat caught up. So the first one is, write only if you can't help it. If you can help it, don't. Which is something I've heard given multiple different ways. Just this concept of, oh, you should only write if you absolutely cannot not tell a story. Like you just have to have this fire in you to tell a story. And then, so that's option one, write only if you can't help it. And option number 2 is writing should be fun.
Oh man.
I think number 1 is kind of woo-woo bullshit. Sorry. Because I feel like people can still have a story in them and then still also be perfectly capable of like holding down a day job or excelling at their day job too. Like you can do both. Not that I can, but other people can.
Yeah. Or even just like having a really good story in you, but like if you're fine if it doesn't get told, like you should still tell the really good story. Like it doesn't have to be your life's passion.
100%.
Yeah,
Well,
I
feel
think
like
it
that's
kind of
more-
aligns with the writing for yourself and writing being fun kind of go together. Like if you're not at least liking some of what you're doing, like parts of it are tough, but like
That first one sounds more like commentary on publishing as like an
I think
industry
so.
rather than like writing as a craft.
Yeah.
You know, like
I definitely see that.
Because it's hard.
yeah, I think that's where that comes from, is a place of like, yeah, if you gotta have real thick skin and really be in it if you want to be traditional.
You're probably right, Kyra.
But for me, that's completely separate from actually writing.
Yeah.
And even
like
that
there's
still sounds like woo bullshit. So.
I still just feel like, I don't know, I have a career I like. We'd still be friends even if I wasn't writing. Like, I've got a lot of good stuff going on. I don't have to, there have been multiple times where I'm like, I don't have to do this. And that's true. Like, I wouldn't have to do it. But, like, it's fun. It's, you know,
I think like that.
Role.
Yeah, and I think that I don't have to do this is also like kind of freeing for a lot of people. Like it lets you write what you want to write rather than being like, oh my God, I have to get on this mermaid trend quick so I can sell, so I can feed my children, right? Like, no, you have a solid day job. You can feed your children even if you don't sell the mermaid book, you know? Enjoy what you do instead.
yeah.
I also think there's this like very, I don't know, like Western capitalist idea that like, you know, if you're doing something, you should be good at it or it should be productive or something. It's like, we actually should have more people just like writing or doing crafts or whatever, just because like they want to,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I feel like the core of it with the Kyra and like the state of publishing. Like it's somewhere more along the lines of like putting all your eggs in the I will become the next big author. Like it's okay to have other things, or being prepared that like, unless like, I don't know, I can't even imagine a world where it's good advice to say, even if this is the only job you want, this is the only thing you should be focusing on. Like it's just, yes, there are some people that are solely passionate about writing. A lot of them still won't become professional authors either. So it's just kind of a,
This is weird, like, do quit your day job advice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that advice almost seems dangerous of like, some people are going to feel like, oh, that's all I want to do.
Yes. Yeah.
That's like, sure, if someone was paying me enough money to like support my family more than my current job is supporting my maybe I would love to. I think that would be great to write full time. But I feel like I would, yeah. I don't know. I don't even know if that's true though. For me, I like order. A day job gives me that. So, I don't know. Nicole said writing should be fun. Is the first quote gatekeeping storytelling, which that's like the aura that it gives off to me. Well, I like it more than you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Feels like I don't know, if someone who was like making a living off of publishing, like a successful published author, told me that, it would come off as like, oh, you think you're better than me. You know, your external success is a result of you just wanting it more.
It's very like artistic snobbery.
Yeah.
And like it comes off very like unaware of privileges they probably had while they were writing, you know, while they were probably struggling to get published. Like, yeah, like, did you have a spouse that was supporting you? Maybe is that maybe what was going on there?
It
You're
reminds
American.
me.
Where did you get your health insurance?
Yeah.
It reminds me. I saw someone share that Margaret Atwood story that she's like told about how like she was at a party and she was talking to a brain surgeon, and he was like, he found out she was a writer, and he was like, oh, when I retire, like I really want to write a book. And she's like, when I retire, I'm going to be a brain surgeon. And the person who posted it was like, at some point we have to admit that writing is not as hard as some other jobs.
That's kind of funny though.
Yeah.
It is true, but also I do think it's funny because you're like, yeah, you go and do that as a hobby. Thank you.
One of those two scenarios is more realistic.
That's true. Yeah. I'm never not going to be like slightly miffed when someone's like, I'm going to do that once I retire. I'm like, cool. I'll take up skateboarding or something instead.
Please do. Okay, next up, we've got stay off of Twitter versus build your author platform early.
How do those two stay off Twitter?
Yeah, that seems like advice I'd give to like anybody in any industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, am I still on Twitter? Yes, but
Do I recommend it for others? No.
If you can, stay away from Twitter too.
I started mine early on Twitter, and now I have like 6,000 followers
Nothing bad.
on my website. You know, like it's just like Twitter's probably going to be dead before I have a book to promote there. So
Yeah. Yeah, building a platform feels like very 10 years ago advice when it felt like that was able to move the needle. Yeah, Andrew said stay off Twitter is good life advice. Save yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have definitely seen for self-published authors, social media become a bigger tool, but with TikTok specifically. And like, I still wouldn't give it as advice to anybody, but there are people who like, you get one video that like really just describes the right trope, and it can really help when you're like directly looking at sales.
I think my issue with the specific advice Megan cited is this idea of like having to build a platform before you even publish a book, because like we've seen that fail so many times because you build your platform based on personality,
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people might like your personality, but not your writing.
Yeah, it's really true.
Or you're like me, you're like, what is my personality? I don't know.
Some of us are still figuring that out. Okay.
Like every 3 years, I'm like, I was too bubbly. I got to go delete some stuff.
Must reinvent myself.
Yeah.
I will say, and I'm going to vote for the stay off Twitter out of these two, but I will say that like Twitter actually was, and maybe it's less effective at this now, but like as a networking, like less as a platform, but like as a networking has actually been good for me. Like I've definitely met people, I've learned things, I've listened to a lot of conversations on there that
Yeah.
I am glad. Going forward, who knows?
Twitter
And
was
it's also
about
still where I get a lot of my book recs. Like someone will just
Yeah.
like post their book cover, and I'll be like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I've heard no one talking about this, but it's coming out next year. I'll add it to my list."
I end up like I'm not even on TikTok, even though I should be, but I still end up finding books from TikTok because other people talk about it, or it's on all of the book tables, on all of the, and like every time I walk into Indigo, it's book talk recommends. I'm like, oh, this is, I literally just bought one because it looked like Gideon the Ninth, because it reminded me of that vibe, and it was like sensation on TikTok. I was like, whatever. It's called Bonesmith, so I'm in. I don't care if TikTok likes it, but I'm in. So it's clearly affecting sales.
Somewhere a cover designer is just like secretly pumping their fist. They know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like Gideon, I did that.
Yup.
All right. Next up, we've got avoid filter words and cut adverbs.
What was the first one? Sorry.
Avoid filter words. So like I saw, I heard,
Yes.
versus cut adverbs. Very similar advice.
Yeah.
Different part of the sentence.
Hmm.
Probably the first one for me. The adverb one just always feels so arbitrary. Like,
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go with filter words too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people.
Long live the adverb.
Yeah, I also feel like people don't get that advice as much as they should. Like it took me a really long time for someone to give me that advice, and then I realized how much stronger it made my writing. I remember being like slightly because it's not as popular advice as like show don't tell. So I remember feeling frustrated. I'm like, why didn't I know this sooner? Because as soon as you strip some of those words out, things start feeling much more immersive for your reader. So yeah, I don't think people talk about that enough.
Yeah. I think it was Susan Benner's website that introduced me to the idea.
Probably.
Yeah.
I did the overeager student thing though, of like suddenly I took every filter word out and I had to train myself to put them back in.
It's like sometimes we can tell. Sometimes we can tell things. It's fun.
Sorry, Kelly, what were you gonna say?
Just realizing I'm feeling like the way we've talked about writing advice over the past like few years, like I'm feeling adversarial against writing advice. Like none of these are good, which was just the least bad. But some of them are like good pieces of advice. So,
well, and I think all of them, like, we're approaching them with like a lot more nuance than I think we would have 5 years ago. Like, your mileage may vary.
All right. So avoid filter words won that one. Next up, we've got butt in chair, hands on keyboard. Some advice that's been long given, but I specifically remember it in that order from Susan Dennard. And then we've got it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in writing. So write for 10,000 hours. That's like a productivity thing. Spend 10,000 hours to be an expert in it.
I was like, I haven't heard that one before. I mean, I think I lean more towards the sentiment of the first one, because obviously you don't have to be sitting in the chair. Like you can be on a walk and dictating or, whatever. But like acknowledging that, yes, you do have to work on the story sometimes to get it written.
Yeah, sometimes you actually have to do the thing and stop thinking about the thing.
That can't be right.
I know.
What have I been doing?
This is personally offensive to me. I do like the button chair one too, because also I think it kind of just tells you like that's really like a routine that you should be in. Even if you don't get a whole bunch of words written, having your butt in the chair is like, this is your writing time, even if you get 5 words down. And I think that's like a really valuable habit to build, is like carving out a little bit of time for you, because otherwise it's like,
Yeah.
once you do get your butt in your chair, it's a lot easier to actually be like, oh, I just wrote 1,000 words. So
Yeah.
Or
As-
just, like today, I just had some button chair time, and I wrote like one sentence, and then I just stared into space for 20 minutes and like solved a bunch of problems.
exactly, that's also writing.
Yes.
So, and I don't think it would have happened if I hadn't been. Button chair is also, I believe, originally Jane Yolen.
Is it? I did not know that. Thank you.
I think button chair is important for, as a writing society who's thrown out right every day. Like, it's the reminder that, but you still need to write sometimes. Like,
Yeah, I agree, Leah. You said, like, the sentiment, because you could use like dictation software. You can write any number of ways, but you do have to do the thing that gets writing done. So that to me is my choice as well.
It could even be like a metaphorical button chair, like as
Yeah.
long as you're dedicating.
Yes.
Like Kara said, you can sit in your chair and stare into space and solve plot problems, right? So you do that on your couch. You can do that in bed. Like some of your energy and time dedicated towards writing.
But for me, at least with the one today, it's like even if I'd been like, I'm gonna go for a walk and think about it, I don't think I would have. I would have been like looking at the trees or whatever. This was like very much one where I just had to be like,
Fair.
we are putting ourselves in this
Yeah.
environment.
This is the
environment
desk area.
that's lodged free.
Yeah. I get
Yeah,
that.
walks are for walking off my feelings about publishing.
Oh.
Sitting down is for working out my
I
writing.
just want to walk, but that's like when I'm in the fun stage of like, I'll have ideas anywhere. If I'm like stuck in like wanting to avoid writing, going for a walk will not work.
All right, next up, I'm going to move us forward because I think we could talk about this forever, probably, because I have so many thoughts about it. But anyway, next up we've got don't overplot and know the ending before you begin writing.
I'm gonna
Not necessarily exclusionary advice, but
go to don't overplot. For one thing, if I've written books where I didn't know the ending until midway through, and it can work. One of those like caveat, not for everyone, not all the time, but like it can work. What was the one I said I just chose?
Don't overplot.
Don't overplot.
Oh yeah. No, and I don't know if this is overplotting, but I've definitely like read books where it felt like there was like a plot, like a little too much rigid, like they had this idea like specifically of how it was going to end, and then like they just kind of forced the book into that. I don't know if that's overplotting.
yeah.
But
It really depends on the genre, I think. Like, if you're writing romance, not knowing the ending, I think is mostly going to be okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
knowing
I
like,
mean,
like it was like a happy ever after or a happy for now versus like I'm writing actually women's fiction.
But say you're writing like a whole series about multiple kingdoms and dragons and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Perhaps you should know the ending before selling the television rights. But also, like the book series, like knowing the ending when it's a complicated story, like you don't need to overplot the ending, but I think you can even
know where
change
you're
the ending
going.
if you need to. But
Yeah.
just hoping it works out seems like a gamble and eventually hiding from that book for the next 20 years.
Oh, this is getting pointed.
I feel like these are both pieces of advice that I personally find useful. But like if I'm thinking about advice I'd give other people, don't overplot is something I would be more likely to give than know your ending.
I'm in exactly Emma's boat because I always know my ending and I love plotting, but I think it's more likely that people will overplot. And I know there's a good amount of people that are pantsers that don't know where they're going. They just go. So I think giving the advice of like always know your ending is like a bit disingenuous to like a whole group of people that don't ever know their ending. So I don't think I would give that advice.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
So yes, Kelly, if you're writing a long series,
You should have a vague idea.
a long fantasy series.
If there's dragons and magic involved,
Knowing the ending is the advice
know where
I
you're
need.
going.
Yeah.
Next up, oh, these two are very unrelated. So let's see. We've got don't read your genre while you're writing it. So like, don't read the genre that you're writing in while you're writing it. And make your character want two things and choose one. The Kelly advice.
Going with Kelly's advice.
Obviously.
Yes.
I think having unrelated advice is actually better. Like it makes it easier to like think of them separately and not pit them against each other.
Yeah. I gave that one. I gave Kelly's like 100 votes.
For one thing, the other is not advice I would ever give.
Yeah.
Read your genre while you're writing. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like if it's helpful for you to follow that advice, go for it. But if it's not helpful, don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not advice I would give to someone just at random.
I actually feel like the opposite is some of the best writing advice I've gotten, and it was from Kyra. I don't know like directly, but like her pointing at, I don't know if she was listening to audiobooks or like getting into a particular voice of a genre by like listening to a lot of that type of book really helps get into the rhythm of a book. This was a long time ago, Kyra, but
no, I think maybe what that was is like, especially when I'm to the stage where I'm like trying to really nail voice, it really helps. Like if I'm writing like a YA contemporary, like to listen to a bunch of those, and then it's like I have that voice in my head.
Yeah. So opposite advice. Yeah.
Anti-advice.
Okay. Check the comments really quick. Everyone agrees. Kelly advice.
I'm sure I got this from someone else, guys. I don't know who.
It's yours only.
No, it's yours. Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got don't try to publish your first novel and don't compare your journey to others.
Don't compare your journey to people who publish their first novel.
Yeah. I'm going to say 2, but 1 is very often true. Almost always.
I mean, honestly, go ahead and try. Like, it's okay if people try to get their first novel published and don't succeed and they learn a lot. Like, I don't have a problem with people sending out things that aren't ready or, like, I'm not, my feelings aren't hurt by that.
Yeah. I think the better advice would be like, don't expect
yes
your first one. Don't be crushed if your first one isn't.
But there's no one where I will tell you to expect it. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I think people don't realize oftentimes how many books it can take before you get even close to getting there.
I typically do feel like, maybe don't try your first, but your mileage may vary.
Yeah. And I would literally never give anyone that advice. Like I feel it, but I would never say it to someone ever.
Right.
I would.
Yeah. It's just so like
it's like if the book is bad.
Or like maybe it's your first novel, but you revised the hell out of it. Like you've revised it so much. Like I do think you can get your first novel there. I just personally think it is a much harder route than learning by writing multiple books.
I also say like advice I would give is like don't be so married to your first book that you like can't move on from it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the first book isn't the one, but I just like if someone wants to write a terrible, like even if it's a really bad first book and it's not at all ready, and send it out to agents and see what happens. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Who among us has not sent out something that wasn't ready?
But Kyra, like you said,
every time I've sent a book before it's ready. every single time.
I meet so many new writers, like Kyra's saying, that are like so hooked on their first book. Like at book signings, they come out of the woodwork. They'll be like, I've been working on this book series. It's like a 3-book series. It's this epic thing about and they'll be like, 25 years I've been working on it, and I'm gonna get it, or I tried to get it published, or I'm gonna get it published. Now I'm on book 6, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, like, move on.
Yeah.
Go back to it later if you get really good and you are so married to this idea, but like, set yourself free from that and move on if you really want to get published. If you're having fun and you're not frustrated, continue forever if you like. But like a lot of the time, these people are frustrated. They're like, I've been working on this for 18 years and the agents aren't biting. And I'm like, it's because you've been working on it for 18 years.
But I also feel like for baby writers, not even knowing that advice exists is very helpful. Like discovering on your own that this first book isn't going to go anywhere.
True.
After some time is important. Like,
yeah.
The idea of like having to just write a practice one that's like, I know it's going to suck. Why would I do it? Like, it's just.
Yeah. Oh, I would never say I wouldn't necessarily say to one of these guys, what are you doing with your life? Move on. Because they don't take to that very kindly after sinking 20 years of their life into this fantasy series.
Yeah. Hopefully you can catch them before that first decade. It's like, it's just,
move on, please.
Yeah. Next up, we've got a repeat. Fantastic. Okay, so the first one is going to be beta read for other writers. And that's beta read for other writers. And then the other one I had on my list is you need to make sacrifices or suffer for your art.
The first one.
First one.
First one.
Boo to the second one.
Give that one like 20.
Boo.
Yeah. Okay, last one for the first round.
Okay.
Learn the rules so you can break them. Classic advice. Or this one I believe I first heard from Brandon Sanderson, though I'm certain he's not the only person to have said this. When in doubt, go for the cool thing when you are writing. Like if you're not sure what to do with your story, go for the cool thing. He talked about it in the context of world building. So we've got the first one is learn the rules of writing so that you can break them. Or when in doubt, go for the cool thing.
What is the other option? Like, why would you ever pick the not cool thing?
If you think something's more practical, maybe. Or...
I like both of them. I think I feel a little more strongly about the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same.
Because you can do something cool like break the rules.
The loophole. All right. That brings us through our first round. So we're going to pop back up to the top. We've got no long words when short ones will do, or don't use a long word when a short one will do, versus let your first draft suck. Just keep pushing forward.
I'm going to choose the second one.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
I figured these would probably go a little faster.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got write what you know versus if something isn't working, take a break.
2 again, I think.
I agree with that. Anyone disagree?
I do, but I don't feel strongly about it.
All right, we'll give chat a second to catch up. Right now we're doing write what you know versus if something isn't working, take a break. So I'm gonna do actual votes tally. So me and Erin go for take a break. Kelly said write what you know. Andrew said write what you know.
Write what you know.
I'm going to take a break.
I feel like take a break is like, I don't know how. Inevitably, you have to take a break. Like it. When you eat, I bet you can continue to ruminate on it. Like, I don't know. I just feel like for me personally, like breaking from things usually means I'm not returning to them.
right. I do think the take a breaks have it. So I'm going to lock that one in. Next up, we've got read widely versus write for yourself.
Those are good ones to pit against each other. Read widely.
I think so too.
Because then you can know more to write about.
Yeah. How will you know what you love until you see what everyone else has done? That's awesome.
Good point.
I agree.
And also just reading is fun.
Oh, we've got a big break in the chat from what we're saying here.
Intriguing.
Oh, interesting. Anyone have reasons to back it up? I can be convinced of anything.
Equally weighted. My knee jerk was to go for write for yourself because it is such like a, I don't know, I've been trying to get published for a really, really, really long time and there's no end in sight.
My brain went like very similarly, like, okay, so and if it doesn't work out, you'll have read a lot of great books. Like it's kind of both of like, if they don't work out, you still got a good thing in the end for both.
True.
I just think the reading is so critical for.
I think reading will get you further in improving your writing than writing for yourself will.
Yeah.
As emotional advice, write for yourself, but as craft advice,
Yeah. All right, now I do feel strongly about it.
All right. We're pushing through read widely. Sorry to chat. It's just like, who was it in the himbos where we disagreed?
the whole thing. I don't even remember who won himbos, just that I was in a fit of rage afterwards.
There were two different winners. There was chat winners and discussion
Yeah, the
winners.
chat was right. That's what I remember about that one. This is why I haven't hosted it.
The rage is still too strong.
It's a little strong.
All right. Next up, we've got show don't tell versus writing should be fun. I feel very strongly about this one.
I'm sure don't tell.
I think I'm writing is fun.
Like I'll be show don't tell too.
I'm writing should be fun.
This feels like the last one with Kyra, like the emotional answer and the craft answer.
Yeah.
I'll go.
I don't think
it
it should be fun all the time, but you should enjoy it. Like, if you're never having fun, why are you doing it?
Yeah. But you're right. It is the difference between craft versus emotion. And I did go craft last time, so maybe I should go craft this time.
Nicole going show don't tell. I might be wrong. No, no one's wrong. Like that's the whole point. They're like, there's no wrong answer.
Unless
everyone was wrong.
Unless you're voting for the himbo chat, apparently. Yeah, show don't tell.
Okay, so we've got, I'm going to tally this one up and we'll go with the majority within chat as well. So I think writing should be fun. Kelly, which did you go with?
Writing should be fun.
Okay, Kelly went writing should be fun. Kyra?
I'm going to go with writing should be fun.
Okay, Emma?
Show don't tell.
Show don't tell. Leah?
Ah.
Show don't tell.
I know Erin's show don't tell.
Writing should be fun. I'll go with my original answer.
Leah goes writing should be fun. We've got Andrew said writing should be fun. Misty Kate said show don't tell. Oh my God, are we going to have a tie? Valerie said show don't tell. Oh, no, we're not. Nicole and Belle both said, which pops show don't tell up by 1.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll crush it later.
I will kill it. That's my mission.
Did someone just whisper, I'll kill you? I could have sworn I heard that. No, just the voice.
If you'd asked me which chat we would say a bunch of things that were going to risk our monetization, I would not have guessed the writing advice
No.
yet.
And yet.
Oh, Missy Kate wants to change her vote.
Wait, which point were you?
I'm so sorry. The tie has already been broken. Regret your actions later.
That's Megan's getting sassy.
Next up, we've got stay off Twitter and avoid filter words.
Filter words.
Yeah.
Filter words.
Like, as writing advice, sure. I still feel like staying off Twitter is probably the best advice you can give a
Wisdom
person.
in general. Yeah.
All right. So we go on filter words. Pretty
Unanimously.
agreed on that. Okay. Yeah, unanimously. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. All right. Next up, we've got button chair hands on keyboard versus don't overplot.
Button chair.
I
But
think
in
so.
chair.
Yeah. But in chair.
Everyone agrees. Stay off Twitter is the best advice to give a person.
Just in life, yeah.
It's just a lot of fighting and all my favorite shows getting canceled
Hmm.
every day. I wake up and it's another. Okay. Next up, we've got make your character want two things and choose one versus don't compare your journey to others.
Oh,
Oh.
Still Kelly's advice. I don't feel like I can do the other one, and I guess it's good advice, but I'm petty and I will compare.
You're like,
Yeah, wait, where's the fun in
Good
that?
advice, not for me.
yeah. Like, I feel like the comparing is great advice. Hard to follow up on. Like, it's
Especially
do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, it's another emotional versus craft thing.
Well, I think even as
Yeah.
emotional advice, it's just like, I don't know. On some level, I'm
You're
like,
gonna.
you're gonna do it anyway, and maybe just let yourself have
Yeah.
feelings about.
And now you know you can't talk to me about it because I told you not to compare.
And I even feel like there's a bit of like, I know Megan, like part of starting your writing journey was like reading a book that you knew you could write better. Is that not a little bit comparing your like?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I could
It
not
is.
write that book better, but I thought I could, and that's why I'm here.
Motivated purely on spite.
Fight and naivete.
Yeah, I'll go with Kelly's advice.
Kelly's advice.
I like that Misty K is saying, like, don't compare yourself, but has shortened it. So it looks like the advice is constantly compare yourself.
Well, the previous one was just but.
I could have just done compare yourself versus don't compare yourself.
Compare yourself always.
All right, next up, last one for this wave, we've got beta read for other writers and learn the rules so you can break them.
Ooh.
Oh, both are so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Beta reading.
Yeah, I'm doing beta reading.
Yeah.
I think so.
It's a great way to learn the rules because you see people doing them like well and doing it wrong. And
That's true.
Like in the original version of this one for the beta reading, was up against like suffering for your art. Like sometimes beta reading is the suffering we do for our art,
That's really true.
but it's very valuable.
Yes.
I think a lot of times as a young writer, you're just like, you think everything you're doing is novel and cool, and you think you're being edgy, and it's just not working because you don't know the rules. But like beta reading can be a good way to identify that because you see other people who think they're being like transgressive of the rules, like,
Yeah.
you know, and you're like, oh, that doesn't always work. And
yeah.
I think it kind of just pushes you naturally towards like, okay.
Yeah. Well, the chat is overwhelmingly.
I know.
You can
they're
break them.
unilaterally against us.
How
like-
dare.
I like the strategy of like when it's, I don't know, when we're divided. I don't know, yeah.
We're the gods of this channel.
We have to be able to continue to fight the next one. So if we go to like, if we use theirs, they're going to have to pull it out and battle it in the next round, and we don't get chat answers right away. So
I do think too something really valuable about beta reading is not just that you're like witnessing other people trying these different things and you're like seeing lots of different examples of things being done well or poorly. You also have to find a way to explain it to them. Like you have to tell them why you think it didn't work and justify it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really valuable.
It's also great.
Conversely, you have to explain why you're doing what you're doing in your own book, and that's a good way to figure out that you don't know what you're doing.
You don't know what you're doing.
The other
Wait,
big
I
benefit
don't
is like
have a reason.
networking and like building up relationships based. This channel would not exist if not for beta reading.
That's
So
very true. I think that's also, we are inevitably going to have a soft spot for beta reading because we have all done it for each other at points. Like,
Mhm.
And I don't know. For me, I think it's just also like we're pitting the two against each other, but I also think there are a lot of other like you're gonna learn a lot of other things from beta reading too. Like I just think it's more bang for your buck and just in terms of like what you're gonna get from it craft wise. But the other advice is very good. I do also learn the rules so you can break them. But
I also like beta reading, knowing that you're like helping someone in their writing journey, like, and that other people are helping me in my writing journey when they beta read for me. So like, I like that aspect too. Community building.
for sure. There's something really satisfying about beta reading when you like, especially if you do like a second round and you can tell some of the advice is clicking for that person. Yeah. I think it's really rewarding.
Yeah. Andrew said, I can't support the beta reading advice because I don't have enough writing friends to do it. That is the tricky side of that. Because what was it up against?
learn the rules.
Learn the rules so you can break them. Is that anyone can learn the rules, but if you don't have enough writing friends, then you can only beta read so much.
That's very true.
And with writing communities being
I just
largely
like,
on social media, it's trickier these days.
yeah. Erin, do you remember where you and I met beta reading wise?
It was absolutewright.com.
Yeah, because like we weren't friends. So like putting yourself out there and offering to do it for other people as well.
Yeah.
There's always gonna be ways in there. This is more like advice for like finding that kind of community stuff than like fighting the beta reading battle. But like, I don't know.
Yeah, it was like a beta reading swap thing, I think, is where we found each other. So it's not just that you go out there and say, I need someone to read my book and help me with it. You swap chapters with each other. So it's like a
Like don't put pressure on it being a writing friends thing. Like,
because you're not going to be friends with everyone you beta read for. You're not always going to click, but like when you do find someone that you click really well with, that's a huge bonus. It's really cool.
Yeah. Or you happen to see that you both failed to audition for the same channel.
And then you get together and just get a little spicy about it and start your own group out of pure spite. And
But you know, your mileage may vary.
I'd like to do a chat about this and talk about it more.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Okay, that's the end of that wave. We're getting close. We're over an hour. Thanks for hanging with us tonight, everyone. We've got let your first draft suck and keep pushing forward, or if something isn't working, step away.
Ooh,
Let it suck.
I'm going to go with let it suck too.
Yeah.
I agree with that as well. Let's give chat a second to so either let your first draft suck or I will write beta reading down as a chat idea right now. I'm going to write it super big so that I don't accidentally throw away the note card because I have a lot of note cards here. I wrote it down big. Okay. Let it suck. Onward. We've got treat, let it, or no, we've got read widely. Sorry, I read the wrong thing. So read widely versus show, don't tell.
What was Read Widely up against last time?
Last time it was up against Write for Yourself.
I'm going to say Read Widely again, because I think you learn the rhythm of good prose that way, and you will naturally learn Show Don't Tell that way as well, hopefully.
Good point. You've convinced me.
I also, we have kind of already talked about this, but Show Don't Tell, like, it's so mispresented a lot of times, where Read Widely just seems like more straightforward, consistent advice.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of those interactions I've had that we've talked about before, like people have been writing that first book for a long time, or just are going to do it casually. The number of times I've seen it come from people who don't really enjoy reading or don't read much, and it doesn't go well. It's not that uncommon. Like, I just don't feel like, I won't say it's impossible, but like not enjoying reading and like reading widely, and just also being a brilliant writer is tough. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be necessarily book format, but like consuming stories.
Yes. If all you listen to is audiobooks, that's fine. But like,
or TV shows or video games.
Yeah, I learn a lot about storytelling from other mediums, for sure.
I think I would still be critical if someone was like, I only consume video.
Like, I don't want to say like you can't that way, but I do feel like if someone like watches a ton of television and doesn't read any books, it's going to be hard to translate that.
I think that I would side-eye that a little bit. I met a woman today who's like, I've never read a book in my life. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't continue speaking to you.
She's up to yourself.
Who are you?
All right. Next up, we've got avoid filter words versus button, chair, hands on keyboard.
Button
chair.
Yeah.
Like, I think most of the rules that are like a hard, this is what you do in writing, are going to filter themselves out of this pretty quickly.
Filter.
The filters are going to filter themselves out, Kaylee.
Boo hiss.
All right.
I thought there was disagreement in chat. It's just like some people are calling it chair, some people are calling it butt. So
I just really also like the side by side of chair and butt.
Next up, with that, character wants two things, must choose one, versus beta read for other writers.
Beta read.
Gotta be beta read, I think.
Yeah. It's the same as what I just said. Of like, there's no like hard and fast, this is the writing rule.
Rest in peace, Kelly's and only Kelly's advice.
She invented it.
It's never been done before.
Trademark.
Just say that every time we say it now. Yeah.
I'm sure this won't get me in trouble at all at some point.
All right. I think we are down to final four.
I want to note that chat does prefer my advice. Just carry on.
They're loyal bunch.
Okay, final four. We've got let your first draft suck versus read widely.
Oof.
Read widely.
I'm gonna read widely.
Yeah.
I guess I gotta say
There's more wiggle room there.
Yeah.
Maybe you're like really good at plotting, and so actually your first draft is.
Or you've read so widely that
You've
like
read so widely.
And it's, I think the like let your first draft suck is very much like a beginner writing advice, or might be less applicable if you're further in and you just like know what works for you, kind of like the like don't edit as you write type thing. Where like everybody's got to read widely. Even if you're a successful published author, you got to keep
I
reading.
think my first drafts will always suck, but I do know that about myself.
You do
It's not
hair
something I need
too.
people to remind me.
I think Susan Dennard has talked about how she's like figured out what works best for her, and she's now to the point where like she'll write and then she'll reach a certain point of the book and then she'll just start from the beginning again based off of like what she wants to do that she didn't think she was accomplishing. And I haven't tried that, but I'm like, that is interesting that that's a better system for you than like getting to the end and then going back and doing it.
I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, for me, it's just like the first drafting phase is not my favorite part of the writing process. It never has been, and it likely never will be.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, I know I'm just going to have to get through this, and then I get to do the fun thing. And I enjoy like, oh, look, this kind of sucks. And now I get to make it look better. And I enjoy ripping it apart. So I'm not doing anything to work harder to make it a perfect first draft, because I like fixing it when it's existing.
Andrew, that's fair. Like I said, I haven't tried it. It might not work for a lot of people. I just thought it was interesting.
I never do that on purpose, but I have done it before where I so don't know what I'm doing when I write the first draft that I'm like, oh, I've told myself this story, but I've told it to myself wrong. And I need to go back and start again. Yeah. It's never deliberate though. I don't want to.
All right. So Read Widely is going to take this one. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, we've got Button Chair Hands on Keyboard versus Beta Read for Other Writers.
Button Chair.
Button Chair for me as well.
Yeah, you got to have something to be able to swap with.
All right. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to button share to read the beta.
Yeah.
Oh, deeply, yes.
All right. We've got a couple butts in chairs in chat as well now.
I'm fighting out the final battle in my head now, and you need both.
That makes our final battle. Read Widely versus Button Chair Hands on Keyboard.
Oh no.
Not saying you shouldn't do both.
Yeah.
Just which is the better advice.
It's gonna be button share for me.
Yeah.
I think it has to be, just from a point of view of getting the writing done.
Yeah.
And like in terms of like the things, like if you had to skip doing one of these things and get a good book written, you can't do it without Button Chair. Like you just
Get any book written. Yeah, exactly.
So our best writing advice is to write.
No.
Good job, us.
You're glad you came to this chat to figure that out.
That's like the theme of the channel ever since we like got good at writing. Is just you just got to do it. Find what works for you and do it.
We spent close to 11 years building up to this moment where if you want to write a book, you need to write the book.
But I like that we came to this in a way that our chat is just a stream of the word but. So.
I also think we should.
Outcome.
We're talking about doing like a book recommendations chat of like, I don't remember what we called it, but like everyone like pitching. I don't know what Megan just said.
I dropped my pen. Sorry.
It'd be fun to do like a Reading Widely chat of like everyone bringing a recommendation for like the most surprising book you loved kind of thing. Which I know isn't like how we defined reading widely here, but like in terms of like inspiration from weird places and just like
Add it to a note card, Megan.
I'm adding it to the beta reading one.
But smaller.
I was gonna say there's no room with the beta reading one.
I like that not only did our top advice come down to you gotta write, our top two advice was you gotta read and you gotta write.
Really, that's it. That's it.
And that is how you are a word nerd.
Yes.
You read and you write.
My take went darker. I'm like, and that's why there's 13 people watching this chat, because that is the advice we bring to the table.
Anyone who's giving you other advice prescriptively is trying to sell you something.
Uh-huh. That's very good advice, Megan.
Oh, interesting.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Nicole said, could we each get a genre?
What
For
if we
the
randomly
book
drew it from a hat?
Andrew says also the theme music, so got that going for us.
True, yeah.
Hell
That's why
yeah.
you're here.
Yeah. Although that was not originally going to be our theme music, but then we got copyright struck on our first video.
Yeah. Because we had it. What did we have? Inner Ninja for the first one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Those jerks.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I wrote down Wreck a Book Night in its own square on the beta reading note card. So we'll get those down. However, next week begins September. The official winner of the night is button chair, hands on keyboard. The best writing advice is to write
His butt.
his butt. Nicole said, I feel writing advice should be seen as a way to avoid the blank page. Figuring out how to write can be scary. So start where the advice is and mold it to fit your particular or peculiar quirks.
That is a way nicer way to end this chat than us going, well.
Well, butts.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah. So next week is September. Can you believe it?
Wow.
We're going to be starting our September back to school themed writing event. So we are going to have write-ins every Sunday in September. Keep an eye out this week. I'm going to start posting some stuff in the Discord. If you haven't joined the Discord yet and you want to, go to our channel and you can watch the video we have or just look at the description box. There's details for how to get onto the Discord in the video about we're hosting a writing event, I think is what it's called. Or you can just add Kelly at A Tiny Disaster. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll talk about it in the videos as well if Discord's not your thing. Hopefully you've picked a project and are getting excited to work on it, whether it's writing or other creative projects. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us, everyone. This was really fun. We'll see you next week. Bye.